You are 12 feet from something that could kill you in 4 seconds, and you are not allowed to run. The undergrowth in front of you shifts. A shape the size of a doorway rises up on 2 knuckles and 1 open palm, and 800 pounds of muscle looks directly at you. You do not have a spear raised. Your hands are open, low, almost apologetic. Somewhere behind you, an elder's voice is a whisper you can barely hear. Stay soft. Don't stare. Let him win. This is not a nightmare. For tens of thousands of years, across the equatorial forests of Central Africa, this was a Tuesday. Think about the last time you were near something that could actually end you. Maybe never. Maybe a car ran a red light once. Today, danger is filtered, fenced, insured. We build entire cities specifically so we never have to stand still in front of something bigger than us and decide, in real time, whether we live. Our ancestors didn't get that luxury. And one of the strangest choices they made, generation after generation, wasn't about what they hunted. It was about what they chose not to. Gorillas are meat. A lot of it. A single adult silverback could feed a foraging band for days. Early humans hunted animals nearly as dangerous buffalo, wild pigs, even young elephants when the odds allowed it. So why does the archaeological and ethnographic record show something strange? Gorilla remains show up astonishingly rarely in ancient hunting evidence, especially compared to how common gorillas actually were in the same forests humans lived in. A creature that size, that available, and yet barely on the menu. That's not an accident. That's a decision made over and over by people who needed every calorie they could get. Here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't squeamish. It was risk math, done by bodies that couldn't afford to get the math wrong. A wounded gorilla doesn't flee. It charges. And unlike a buffalo or a boar, it charges with something unnervingly close to intent it remembers: who threw the spear. Anthropologist Melissa Remis, who spent years tracking Western lowland gorillas in the Central African Republic, documented just how deliberately local hunters avoided direct confrontation, treating gorillas less like prey and more like a rival power to be negotiated with, not defeated. Barry Hewlett's long-term work with aka forest foragers found the same pattern. Enormous cultural caution, specific taboos, specific songs, specific silence. All built around one central fact: gorillas were too much like people to hunt the way you'd hunt an antelope. Too intelligent to panic predictably, too strong to wound cleanly, too close, biologically, to something the ancient mind recognized as almost us. That recognition mattered more than any spreadsheet of calories. A hunt that fails against a boar costs you a few bruises. A hunt that fails against a gorilla costs you a hunter. Maybe 2. In a band of 30 people, that's not a bad day, that's a demographic catastrophe. Lose your best tracker, your best provider, your best father, and the whole group's survival curve bends downward for years. Ancient humans weren't calculating individual bravery. They were calculating whether the tribe could survive the loss. Look at what they developed instead of a spear technique. Distance became a technology of its own. Warning calls specific to gorilla movement, distinct from the calls used for leopards or snakes. Route knowledge passed down like sacred text: which valleys held gorilla families, which hours they fed, which seasons made them irritable, which paths let you circle around a feeding group without ever entering its line of sight. This is intelligence gathering with zero written record, held entirely inside human memory, updated by every near-death encounter, and passed forward as story. Here's where the twist lands. Avoidance is usually framed as failure: the animal you didn't get, the meal you missed. But for ancient humans, choosing not to hunt gorillas may have quietly produced something far more valuable than protein. Restraint itself became a survival skill. Somewhere in that avoidance sat the idea that some power in the world deserves distance, not domination, that not every strong thing needs to be conquered to be understood. Communities that developed rituals, songs, and shared knowledge around avoiding gorillas were practicing something we don't usually associate with prehistoric life: negotiated coexistence with another mind. That habit, reading another creature's intelligence and adjusting your entire strategy around it, rather than simply overpowering it, is not a small thing. It's arguably one of the seeds of human diplomacy. Long before humans negotiated with other humans over land, trade, or marriage, they were already practicing the core move: sizing up a more dangerous other, deciding conflict wasn't worth it, and assembling an entire cultural apparatus: warnings, taboos, shared stories to make peaceful distance the default. The same cognitive muscle that let a forager back away slowly from a silverback is the muscle later used to broker a truce between rival camps. There's a bigger pattern hiding here, one that runs through almost everything ancient humans did. Survival wasn't just about what our ancestors were strong enough to kill, it was about what they were wise enough to leave alone. Every culture that made it through deep time carried an invisible ledger of respected dangers: the reef you don't swim past, the mountain you don't climb in that season, the animal you don't provoke, and that ledger, shaped by thousands of small acts of restraint, is arguably as responsible for our species' survival as any spear or fire. We tell the story of humanity as a story of conquest, but so much of it is actually a story of knowing exactly when not to. Next time you walk past something powerful and don't even register it: a stray dog, a horse behind a fence, footage of a gorilla scrolling by in a nature documentary while you eat dinner, remember that somewhere in your ancestry, someone stood in front of that same kind of creature with nothing but a spear they chose not to throw. Their entire life and the lives of everyone depending on them, balanced on a decision made in silence, in a language older than words. Not today. Not this one. We think of ourselves as the species that hunts everything. We forgot we're also the species that learned, again and again, what to leave standing.